she owned the building, but they wouldn't give her a room. Picture this, a luxury hotel in the heart of Atlanta. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers. The kind of place where a single night costs more than most people's monthly rent. And standing in the lobby, exhausted after a long flight, was a woman with confirmed reservation, a credit card in hand, and every right to be there. But for 2 hours, she was invisible. The staff saw her. They just refused to see her. What they didn't know, what they couldn't have imagined, was that the woman they were dismissing, the woman they were treating like a problem to be managed rather than a guest to be served, was the reason the hotel was still standing. Her name was Nia Bradshaw. And what happened that night exposed a truth that millions needed to hear. This is her story. Late on a Thursday evening, Nia Bradshaw pushed through the revolving doors of the Grandstone Hotel in Atlanta. She'd been traveling for 12 hours, 2 flights, 1 layover, and a taxi ride through rush hour traffic. Her body ached. Her mind was tired. All she wanted was a shower, a bed, and 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Nia wasn't dressed to impress. She wore comfortable travel clothes, a simple sweater, jeans, sneakers. Her hair was natural, pulled back in a low bun. She carried a single small suitcase and a leather bag slung over her shoulder. To anyone watching, she looked like a regular traveler, tired, ready to rest. But Nia Bradshaw was anything but regular. At 42, she was one of the most successful businesswomen in the Southeast. A self-made entrepreneur who'd built a real estate investment portfolio worth tens of millions. A philanthropist who'd funded scholarships, community centers, and small business grants across 3 states. She sat on boards. She mentored young professionals. She was respected, admired, influential. And she was a primary investor behind the Grandstone Hotel's recent multi-million-dollar renovation. But as she approached the front desk, none of that mattered. The clerk looked up. Young, professional, polished. Her smile was automatic, trained, the kind you give every guest. But when her eyes landed on Nia, something shifted. The smile tightened. Her posture stiffened. The warmth evaporated. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her tone wasn't rude. Not exactly. But it wasn't welcoming either. Nia placed her confirmation number on the counter. "I have a reservation." "Bradshaw." The clerk glanced at the paper, then at Nia, then back at the paper. And that's when everything changed. "I'm sorry," the clerk said, her fingers moving slowly across the keyboard. "I'm not seeing your reservation." Nia blinked. "That's impossible. I booked it 3 weeks ago. I have the confirmation email on my phone if you need to see it." The clerk barely looked at her. "Let me check again." More typing. More silence. Then, "I'm showing that we don't have any available rooms tonight." Nia glanced past the clerk to the wall behind her. Rows of key cards hung on hooks, clearly visible. Available rooms. "I can see the keys from here," Nia said calmly. "And I have a confirmed reservation." "I'm sorry, ma'am. There's nothing I can do." Nia took a breath. She'd been through enough in her life to recognize what was happening. But she wasn't going to give them the reaction they expected. She wasn't going to raise her voice. Wasn't going to cause a scene. "Can I speak to a manager, please?" The clerk hesitated. "The manager is busy right now, but I can assure you we're doing everything we can." "I'll wait." So she did. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Other guests arrived. A white couple in business attire checked in without issue. A family with 2 kids. A man traveling alone. All of them were greeted warmly, given keys, directed to elevators. Nia stood off to the side, watching. An hour became 2 hours. More staff appeared. They whispered to each other, glancing in her direction. A security officer drifted into the lobby, positioning himself near the entrance. Not threatening, not aggressive, just present, watching her. Have you ever been treated like you don't belong, even when you have every right to be there? Have you ever walked into a space and felt eyes on you, judging you, questioning you, before you even open your mouth? Drop a comment if this hits home. Because what Nia did next was a masterclass in grace under pressure. She didn't yell, didn't storm out, didn't demand anything. She simply pulled out her phone and started taking notes. But here's what the staff didn't know. Nia Bradshaw wasn't just some traveler passing through Atlanta. She wasn't just a guest with a reservation. She was a woman who'd saved the hotel from bankruptcy 3 years earlier. When the Grandstone was on the verge of foreclosure, drowning in debt and losing guests to newer competitors, Nia had stepped in. She'd seen potential where others saw risk. She'd invested her own money, millions of dollars, into a complete renovation, new rooms, updated technology, redesigned common areas. She'd hired consultants, brought in a new management team, repositioned the brand. The Grandstone wasn't just surviving now. It was thriving. And Nia owned a significant stake in it. But she didn't show up to hotels wearing designer suits and announcing her title. That wasn't her style. Instead, she did something smarter, something most investors never bothered with. She visited anonymously. It was a practice she developed over the years. If you really want to know how a business operates, she believed you can't announce yourself. You can't let people prepare. You have to experience what regular customers experience. You have to see how staff treat people when they think no one important is watching. So she booked rooms under her own name, no titles, no corporate credit cards, no advance notice. She observed. She took notes. She assessed service quality, cleanliness, responsiveness. And then she used that information to make her properties better. Tonight was supposed to be one of those visits, but it had turned into something else entirely. As Nia sat in that lobby, watching staff whisper and security hover, she made a decision. She would wait. She would document everything. She would give them every opportunity to do the right thing. Because this wasn't just about her anymore. This was about every person who'd ever been judged on appearance rather than character. Every guest who'd been treated as less than because of their race, their clothes, their perceived status. And then, someone made a call that changed everything. Around 10:30 that night, Nia's phone buzzed. A text from her close friend and business partner, Maya. "Are you okay?" Still waiting at the hotel. Nia had mentioned her situation an hour earlier, more out of frustration than alarm. But Maya, always protective, always vigilant, had made a decision. She called the local news. 20 minutes later, two reporters walked to the Grandstone's front doors, cameras in hand. The effect was immediate. Staff members froze. The front desk clerk's face went pale. The security officer stepped back. A manager Nia had never seen before materialized from a back office, moving quickly toward the lobby. One of the reporters approached Nia. "Ms. Bradshaw, we received a tip about potential discrimination at this hotel. Would you be willing to talk to us?" The lobby went silent. Nia stood, calm and composed. She'd been sitting for over 2 hours, but her posture was straight, her voice steady. "I'd be happy to." The manager rushed over. "Ma'am, I apologize for any confusion. Let me personally check you in right now. We have a suite available, complimentary, of course." Nia looked at him. "A suite? 2 hours ago, your staff told me there were no rooms available at all." There was clearly a misunderstanding. "There was no misunderstanding," Nia said quietly. "I had a confirmed reservation. I presented it at check-in. I was told there were no rooms. I watched other guests check in without issue while I waited. Your security officer has been watching me for the past hour, as if I were a threat." The cameras were rolling now. The manager stammered. "If we could just speak privately." "I don't think privacy is necessary," Nia said. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. Inside were documents, contracts, investment agreements, renovation receipts. She placed them on the front desk. "My name is Nia Bradshaw. I'm the primary investor in this hotel. I funded the renovation that saved this property from foreclosure. I came here tonight to assess guest experience. And what I experienced was discrimination. If you're seeing the power in staying calm when others expect you to explode, hit that like button right now. Because Nia's response is what separates leaders from everyone else." The staff stood frozen. The manager's mouth opened. No words came out, and the cameras captured everything. By morning, the story had gone viral. Footage of Nia's quiet revelation in the Grandstone lobby was everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. News outlets across the country picked it up. The hashtag Grandstone discrimination trended nationally. Think pieces were written. Interviews were requested. People were outraged on her behalf. They called for boycotts, demanded staff be fired, wanted heads to roll. But Nia did something no one expected. She chose grace. In a press conference 2 days later, she stood in front of microphones and cameras and said something that stunned everyone watching. "I'm not interested in revenge," she began. "What happened to me happens to countless people every day. People who don't have the resources I have. People who can't call the media or reveal themselves as investors. They're dismissed, ignored, treated as suspicious simply because of how they look." She paused, letting that sink in. "So instead of punishing individuals, I'm addressing the system. Effective immediately, I'm establishing a scholarship fund for marginalized students pursuing careers in hospitality. $1 million annually. Because the industry doesn't just need better training. It needs more diverse leadership." The room erupted in applause. But she wasn't finished. "Additionally, every property in my portfolio will undergo mandatory anti-bias training. Not a one-time seminar. Ongoing education. With real consequences for discrimination. We're going to create an environment where every guest, regardless of race, appearance, or perceived status, is treated with dignity." The Grandstone's management issued formal apologies. Several staff members were placed on leave pending investigation. The hotel chain announced they would adopt Nia's training protocols across all their locations. But the real impact went deeper. Guests who'd stayed silent about their own experiences started speaking up. Other hotels implemented similar policies. Conversations about subtle discrimination in service industries exploded across social media. Nia had turned her humiliation into education, her pain into progress. And the world was watching. Here's what Nia Bradshaw's story teaches us. Discrimination isn't always loud. It's not always slurs or violence or obvious hatred. Sometimes it's quieter, subtler. It's in the pause before someone smiles, the assumption before someone speaks, the decision to question someone's belonging before you know anything about them. Nia Bradshaw is an accomplished businesswoman, a philanthropist, a millionaire investor. She had every credential, every achievement, every marker of success. And none of it mattered when she walked through those doors, because the staff didn't see her accomplishments. They saw her appearance, her race, their assumptions. And that's the reality too many people, particularly women of color, face daily. No matter how high you climb, no matter what you achieve, there will always be spaces where you have to prove you belong. But here's what makes Nia's response so powerful. When she had the power to destroy, she chose to build instead. She could have ruined careers, filed lawsuits, weaponized her influence to punish everyone involved. And no one would have blamed her. But she asked herself a better question. What would actually create change? Not revenge. Education. Not punishment. Transformation. When you have the power to punish, do you have the strength to teach instead? That's the real test of leadership. Share this story with someone who needs to see what real power looks like. Because it's not about revenge. It's about creating a world where what happened to Nia never happens to anyone else. That's legacy. She owned the building they refused to let her into. But instead of tearing it down, she rebuilt it better. Nia Bradshaw's story isn't just about one night in one hotel. It's about dignity, about grace under pressure, about using your pain to create someone else's opportunity. Subscribe for more stories of resilience, courage, and transformation. Comment below, what would you have done in Nia's position? And hit that notification bell, because the next story might just change how you see the world. Remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is turn your pain into someone else's progress. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.